Well, hey there, I'm Jordan. This is the Bothell Neighbors in Business podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I'm excited for today. I'm here with my friend, newer friend.
Yeah.
Like we've been kind of had connections that maybe we didn't quite all put together. And I know I had seen you around before we first met. But I was like, oh, I know that guy. But it was only fairly recently that we actually, I think, spoke. And so
that's about right. So you have all these connections on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever it is. And like, oh, how do I actually know this person?
Yeah.
And then you meet them like, hey, by the way.
Oh,
that's
yes.
how.
There you
that's
go.
How, yes.
There you go. And so I'm here with Anthony Schultz from ProStar Insurance and got connected with Anthony first maybe a year and a half or so ago, somewhere in that ballpark. But they have been our insurance company for the last couple of years now, I think year and a half. We just renewed. So they do amazing work and have been a pleasure to work with. And I'm excited to have Anthony on to just talk a little bit about his business and about life in Bothell and beyond. So Anthony, thanks for taking some time to be with us today.
Of course. Well, thanks for having us. I guess the best first thing, you've had a great experience the first year and a half. So we're doing this, right? Doing something right versus having the other guy on. So that's good.
Yeah. No, it's been great. So, but yeah, why don't you maybe just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about ProStar and what you guys do here, how long you've been here, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm a native of the area as well. Grew up here, and graduated from the Inglemoor class of 98. And
Go Vikings.
That's right, Vikings. And got as far north as Monroe, and then came on back to Bothell. Graduated from the UW as well. Degree in construction management, and tried that out for a little bit. And then,
very cool.
Did insurance, title insurance, very exciting in my early 20s, mid 30s, and then all of a sudden had like a midlife crisis at like 32. Like had a house, doing title insurance, kids. Like there's got to be more to this than more to life than this. And so pursued some nonprofit work for a few years, and then wound up doing personal lines insurance for the last 10.
Very cool.
So it's been a ride ever since, and really enjoyed serving the community here in the area through this venue of insurance.
Very cool. Very cool. Tell us a little bit about kind of how a little more about ProStar.
Yeah.
The specific things you do, maybe what makes you different from other insurance companies, and how you guys got started in the area here. Sure.
So ProStar, we specifically work on auto, home, life, so personal lines insurance. So your cars, your home, your boat, an umbrella, life insurance. We do some commercial as well, but we like to focus and be very specific on the needs of our clients. And so we refer out most of the things that go beyond that. And our two other partners, John and Eric, they've been friends since second grade.
Wow.
And graduated from Bothell High School
as
well.
I love it.
And decided to form ProStar kind of out of college. Cool. And was in the Everett area and then Redmond, but Bothell's always been home, and say this is where they really want to make an impact.
Cool.
And if they raise their families and make an impact in the community.
Yeah.
So that's how they centered here. And then about 5 years after they started is when I came along, and we have just been growing ever since.
Awesome. No, I love that. So you mentioned Bothell. Love Bothell. We I think both live in Bothell, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Just up the street.
What part of town are you in?
I'm right by Maywood Hills.
Maywood Hills. Okay. Yeah. And I'm in Canyon Park, so just off of 228, up around good old exit 26. But tell me, before we dive into insurance stuff, what is your favorite thing to do in Bothell when you're not working, aside from getting your hair cut at headquarters?
Yeah, headquarters, which is great. Yeah, I think for both of us, it takes like 5 minutes. The experience in general. Yeah. But I like being there. I mean, I'm always going to say yes to someone who wants to go to the ranch for a shake and a burger.
Yep.
I do like going to Popkini to watch a game.
Okay.
But man, there's so many live music options now, whether it's going to the cottage or McMinimans on a weeknight. Just go and checking that out, especially when the weather's nice.
Oh yeah. Do they do live music there?
I think on Tuesdays during the summer, I think that's the right day.
At both of those places?
The cottage for sure. McMinimans, it's on a rotating schedule.
I had no idea. Oh, yeah. I love live music, so I definitely got to check that out sometime.
It's nice too, because McMinimans, they always have the fire, and they've got that little whiskey hut in the middle of it, along with everything else, which is really nice.
I'm overdue for a visit back to McMinimans. It's been a couple of years, I think, since I've been there. I should probably swing by.
And then I have an e-bike now because I live so close.
Yep.
And also one of my favorite things is to go to a concert at the Shoutout and take my e-bike from here on the trail back.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about parking, no driving.
Yeah.
Have a couple glasses of wine. Don't have to worry about getting pulled over or anything.
Especially
when you're an insurance guy.
No police on the Burt
trail.
Gilman.
Yes, exactly.
At least not normally. I haven't seen any.
No.
Maybe they should. If they watch this, they might
become more popular. Yes,
they might. Just look that next week there's going to be cops riding bikes on the Burt Gilman, looking out for Anthony. No, I love that. That's hilarious. Well, how long of a ride is it from your house to the trailhead?
It's probably on a bike. It's probably 3 minutes.
Oh, nice. And it's like 12-ish to Chateau Saint Michel if you're hauling a little bit.
Yeah. Now I'm sure there's a speed limit on that.
Yeah.
You're not to exceed.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure I don't.
I don't see any signs. I'm just saying.
Exactly. It's an unwritten rule somewhere.
There we go.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote it down, but they didn't tell the rest of us. So
exactly.
Very cool. Well, that's awesome. What about kind of thinking back to in town here? One thing I was thinking about the other day, and I'd like to ask you is, what is the last place you visited for the first time? So the most recent kind of first time encounter, restaurant or business or anything, just something local in Bothell here.
It was actually Zoom Healthcare up by Safeway. I've got several kids, and we needed to get a medical for a health questionnaire done for sports.
Wow.
And so they just offer like this real quick get in, get out.
Yeah.
And it was like, I hadn't been here. And I looked it up online because sometimes the doctor can take forever.
Yeah.
And so Zoom Healthcare. And it was a great facility up there by Woods and Carolina Smoke.
Yep.
So that was it. Hadn't been in there before.
We've been there a couple times as well. And definitely not a very sexy answer, but
no, I was like, I've been to mostly the hot spots quite a bit, but that was the last new one.
All right. Yeah. He did not fudge the answer at all.
I was just being honest.
100% truthful. That was it. That was it. So yeah, it is nice. I think back to like when I was younger, and I don't really remember these like quick health care, emergency care places like being a thing really.
No, it was super. You would either go to your doctor or you'd go to the hospital.
Yeah.
I mean, I like kids, my oldest one's 18. We've been going to Woodinville Pediatrics now for 18 plus years.
Yeah.
And actually, Dr. Weinberg, I graduated with his daughter. So I've known him for a long time.
Sure.
So I said, hey, you're going to make sure my second grader, you're still going to be around? And he's like, yeah, I think so. So we'll be there. Keep going there. Keep going there forever. But no, there was not all these, but there's more people and you need help. And what's funny is I'm on the Woodinville Chamber. I'm on the ambassador board there. And the Evergreen Health speaks to us quite a bit and talk about their challenges in terms of expanding and what it looks like. And as it being a local regional hospital. So they can't keep up with everything that's going on either.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have them.
Totally. Well, I mean, it's nice to have something that's closer and, available in off hours, weekends or whatever, especially when you have things where it's like, I don't think this is life threatening, but I wouldn't mind just having somebody check it out, so that's cool. I was going to say for mine, my father-in-law he's a little bit of a foodie, and he's the kind of guy that when you're like, hey, I want to go to this new place I just heard about it. He's like, oh yeah, I've been there 3 times. He's always like up on the trends and first to arrive at places like that. But he just got me into Mio. Is it Mio Street Food? Just on Bothell Highway by the Shell station over here.
Oh yeah, that's good. It's a little taco truck, right?
Yeah, a little taco truck.
Yeah, they've got the quesadilla burras there. I think I'm saying it right.
The birria, I think. Yeah. Or birria.
Birria.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yes.
But I felt like I need to take a nap after I eat it.
Oh, yeah.
I actually just reposted something for myself on Facebook like 10 years ago. It says, eventually, I won't hate myself after having Mexican for lunch.
Yeah.
Because I just take a nap. But no, I don't have that self-control yet.
No, I don't either. I don't either. I love Mexican.
Yeah. Well, I saw on one of the Bothell Facebook pages that there's a new place that's on Bothell Highway in the parking lot for Bank of America.
Yeah.
And it's tacos, burritos, but they're like at 7:00 at night.
Yeah.
So I'm dying to. Everybody's like, it's the best thing ever.
I saw that,
but I'm like, at this point, I'm too tired to go back out or full, but I need to go try it.
7. That's a little late for Mexican for me.
Well, depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, yes. I guess so. I guess that's true. So, anyways, well, speaking of kind of the community a little bit, what are some ways that kind of ProStar is involved with, life here, what's going on in town or in the region?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we chose to come back to Bothell and raise our families here and open a business here to give back. And so it's one of our biggest core values. And a lot of it's been through youth and youth sports. And so for a long time, a lot of us were involved with a nonprofit called Young Life and being leaders and supporting their mission here in the area. And we also are coach a lot. John, again, one of our partners, he's been helping coach Bothell football for probably 10 plus years now.
Wow.
In a volunteer coach role.
Yeah.
And then I coach the Bothell boys swim team and the Inglemoor girls swim team. And we do that as well. Support boosters here at Cedar Park Christian up the street.
Very cool.
And we're always just looking for other ways to give back to our community. But a lot of it, I feel like at this point, is how can you be supportive of the circle that you're in?
Yeah.
Just peer-to-peer, business-to-business,
Yep.
going around and doing it that way.
I love that. And that's kind of definitely something that,
Yeah, and there's always ways. We've had Wish Upon a ProStar in the back. People can submit applications online.
That's clever.
According to the state insurance commissioner, we can only give up to $100 per individual person. But people would submit needs, whether they needed a mattress or help moving or funds for medical bills or whatever. And we've been able to do that in the past. Or we just did a drive for school supplies for teachers in classrooms at the beginning of this year because about 3 of the spouses that we work for are all teachers, and that's been important.
Awesome.
And we're actually just putting on our first charity golf tournament in about a month, and all the benefits go to first responders, teachers, and Wounded Warrior project.
Amazing. I love that.
We've always wanted to do one. It'll be competitive golf. You have to have a handicap to play and in pairs. But again, everything gets going off to charity.
Cool. Very cool. Well, let's, I want to dive into some things related to insurance as well. One of the things that I've noticed, like a lot of people have probably noticed, when you get your renewal notice up that, the last 3-4 years, especially really since COVID, I think, it seems like the cost of insurance has gotten so crazy. And, just a little bit of conversations we've had and also some research I've done, like there's definitely some big shifts happening in the insurance industry. And there are some big struggles in the insurance industry right now that are contributing to those things, like rising costs and all that. And so tell us a little bit more about that. What's kind of going on in the industry right now for people that are maybe looking at their insurance bill and thinking like, whoa, how is it this much more? This is crazy. What's going on?
Absolutely. Well, you're right. It's been all over the news, local and national. I mean, both our presidential candidates have actually brought it up. Vice President Harris brought it up at the debate a little while ago. And then I just saw President Trump tweet about it the other day. He's like, he's guaranteeing to cut it in half. So we'll see if that happens.
Seems ambitious.
Yeah, seems ambitious. We'll see what happens or not.
Best of luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. But the real drivers that the insurance companies have lost $30 to $40 billion each of the last 2 years.
Wow.
And no one that I have talked to ever felt bad for an insurance company, right? Because of what they've done. But they have to react by raising rates because the insurance process doesn't work unless the carriers do make money. Yeah. It was at a point where for every dollar they were bringing in a premium, they'd pay out $1.10 to $1.20 in claims.
Wow.
And the reason they've lost so much money, kind of twofold. On the auto side, accident levels have been at an all-time high.
Wow.
So we all went away for COVID. We've been driving for about 2 years now, and it's almost like we forgot how to drive.
Yeah.
I mean, people are more aggressive, and they're more distracted. So the device, the amount of time we're spending on a device now is worse and worse. Yeah. And so people aren't paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
So when you add the high inflation we have had to an increased number of accidents now, so the medical costs more, the repair to the car costs more, the labor costs more, the medical, if you're hurt, costs more, and then the ensuing legal all costs more. And that has just driven up the rates.
Wow.
On the auto side. Also on the auto side, Kias and Hyundais, the TikTok trend that went viral back in 2023, the theft rates for those cars shot up 400%. Yeah. And it was at a point now where no carriers would take those on new business. So if you had a Kia or a Hyundai and you couldn't shop around, you were just stuck. And a few carriers have decided to open the markets to those recently, but they've been at an increased cost.
Wow.
And then EVs. So, Teslas were kind of leading that mold. Nissan Leafs were well before Chevy Volts, and then Tesla kind of started to really come to light during COVID and after COVID. And now there's enough data that the carriers have used to show when a Tesla or a Rivian gets into any kind of accident, small or large, the car almost has to be totaled because it's so expensive to fix. The
Yeah.
electronics, the batteries, you can only go to Tesla to get it done, and so they have their rates. So then if you're waiting 4 months to get in, and now somebody has to be in a rental car, all that costs the insurance company a lot of money, and so it's almost cheaper for them to total the thing out.
Yeah.
So again, carriers took a pause on insuring those until they got the rate right through the insurance commissioner. So that's everything that's really compiled on the auto side. On the homeowner side, again, we have seen record number of losses financially over the last year over year. The last 5 years has been a new record.
Wow.
We were just at a conference last week. The Insurance Brokers of Washington had their big annual conference, and they said, back in 2008, there were 8 losses nationally that exceeded $1 billion.
Wow.
This last year, 28.
Well,
So from 8 to 28,
three and a half times.
3.5 times, yeah. And no one anticipates that going down.
Yeah.
So whatever your thoughts are on climate change or whatnot, the carriers are saying it's here. So fires and flooding and hurricanes have all seen an increased number, and so that's affecting homeowners rates.
Yeah.
So here in Washington, insuring in Chelan County or anywhere in that area has become a real challenge. People are getting non-renewed and can't find coverage.
Yep.
But it's been so bad, even in California, all these major carriers, State Farm, Farmers, Allstate, have pulled out of the state and non-renewed everybody. So you almost can't get coverage down there if you're a homeowner or buying a home. And the same thing has happened in Texas, Florida, New Orleans. If you can even get coverage, it's like $7,000 a year.
Wow.
So it's becoming a real issue for people. And those are some of the drivers. And again, no one predicts these things the trend to go the other way.
Yeah.
And so these increases we've seen of 30 to 40% on year rates, this is going to be the new normal.
Wow.
It may go up and down 5% from here, but it's definitely not going to drop down the 30 to 40% like it had before.
That makes sense. That really makes a lot of sense, actually. So would you say that it sounds like you're saying, hey, we've been encountering in the industry some major shifts in costs, primarily, but then also the rate of incidents and claims is a lot higher than it has historically been. But things are coming to a point where they're starting to stabilize, and maybe from here on out, we likely won't see as drastic of increases. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It's really going to depend on what the rest of the market does, but as long as there's not another big disruptor or accidents don't have a big jump again, then the rates should even out.
Okay.
But as cars get more expensive, I mean, if you go, I'm actually looking for cars right now, and you look at these cars that are brand new, and the amount of them that cost 6 figures is ridiculous for a car.
Yeah.
And so when you're only paying the insurance company $300 to $400 a year to insure that car, that may then cost $60,000 to fix or whatever it is. That the rate has to catch up. To it.
That makes sense. Yeah, and even in cars that aren't terribly expensive these days, that might be considered more mid-range or lower end cars, there's so much technology that's been interwoven into every part of the vehicle that wasn't there before. I think back to for instance, a year or so ago, we had damaged our rear side view mirror on one of our cars, and looked into called the dealer, hey, what it would cost to replace this. And I think they said it would be like about $1,100 for a mirror, which, 15 years ago in a car, it's a, kind of a little steel ball joint thing and some glass. It's not a big deal. Might have cost a couple $100. But now there's, obviously you have all the exterior components and design pieces, but there's sensors built into that and lights and, sounds and all that, all these other components that, make something simple like a mirror a lot more expensive than it used to be.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing with windshields right now. Somebody has to replace their windshield. All of a sudden it's $3,000 because it's not just the glass.
There's display things.
It's the tech and everything to recalibrate it when it goes with the rear view mirror.
Wow.
And how it all works. And that's the most expensive part is the labor to do all that.
Wow. That makes sense when you kind of stack it, break it down like that. So basically if we want to have cheap insurance, we should buy like a 1990 Toyota Camry.
Yes, that's the car.
And you can bring that rate down to $20 a month.
Yeah, and just pay a liability $20 a month. You said it, not me.
Yeah.
But something like that. But not a Civic. Yeah, people think Civics. Civics are like the most stolen cars in the state, and so they
Yeah.
are discriminated against. I'll say,
Yeah.
by the insurance companies.
Yep. I had my first car was a 96 Acura Integra, and I found out afterward that at the time that was the most stolen car. And I was like, oh, geez. Well, thanks. They didn't tell me that at the dealership,
course
obviously,
not.
but no. Yeah, so no. Well, actually I bought it from a friend, so he didn't tell me that. He might not have known, I guess. But
Maybe not.
either way. So very cool. Well, I appreciate you shedding some light on that. A couple questions that kind of, came up in conversations that I've had with people about insurance and different things. But first one that, I want to kind of transition to is, what advice would you give to individuals or businesses when they're selecting an insurance provider? I'm looking out, I'm shopping, I'm trying to figure out who to go with. What would you say?
Well, I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out if you're working with a broker or an agent.
Okay.
So an agent works directly with one company, and they represent that company.
I see.
And so that would be like a State Farm or an Allstate or a Farmers or an American Family, where they are great and they provide a great product, but they can only provide what is within that company's repertoire.
I see.
Right. So as a broker, we work with at least 12 different companies, more. And so we can shop the entire marketplace for you. And for your unique situation, you might need something a little bit different.
Gotcha.
Or, as we were seeing, rates are going up, so we can shop the entire marketplace for you to see what's out there. And there's no charge for that, right, as a broker. So you pay the carrier, you as a consumer pay the carrier directly. And they do give us a commission off that, but you're not paying extra for that. That's just like if you went through the carrier directly.
Yeah.
But you get somebody who's knowledgeable, who understands the system and has a relationship with the carriers. Because the amount of volume we write with Safeco or Progressive, if you as a client come to me and say, hey, this claim is not being handled well, or I don't understand this, a person to call and talk to, and then we can go to the company and have those relationships to make it better. And we do it quite a bit, believe it or not. Yeah. Versus just going online, trying to figure out what you want, shopping, and hope for the best, and not doing it. I mean, speaking of technology, as we become more tech driven, there's a piece of being more relationship driven along with that makes you feel better. You have all these options, but insurance can be a really big deal and affect your life greatly. Yeah. Because if you cause a major accident, without the right coverage, you could lose everything and completely change your life. And so, do you want to go off what you think you know online, or at least talk to somebody about it first? Yeah. To make sure you're covered. Well, it makes sense too when you think about it, because when you if you were to shop, say, a State Farm, and nothing disparaging about State Farm, they're fine. But just picking them as an example, you want to go and get a quote from State Farm. I would think, just as an outsider to the industry, that they'll give you the price, and the price is the price, and that the only thing you could do is maybe change your coverage options or things like that. But there's no real comparison with other companies. Yeah, other companies, other policies. You kind of have to do a lot of that legwork on your own to figure out, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. And I would think that working with a broker who's not necessarily married to one company or the other, you probably would get a greater amount of advocacy in the claim process. If you need to make a claim and that sort of thing. Is that right? Correct. Because when you call us, and something has gone sideways, whether you're in an accident involved another party, or you backed into a pole at the espresso stand, or you crashed your bike on the Burke Gilman Trail. Yes, exactly. You and I could have your bike's covered. Yes, exactly. You and I could have an honest conversation about what's going to be best for you now and long term. But as soon as you call the insurance company, whether it's one that we work with or one of those other ones we mentioned, they're automatically going to start processing a claim, and that may not be in your best interest. It may be best that you just pay this out of pocket and move on, because your insurance rate, especially in today's market, will be greatly affected going forward. And so you may, not only would it save you money, but time and effort and covering your insurance record. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and that segues perfectly into another question that came up was, are there some claims that you should not make, that you should pay out of pocket instead? Is it sometimes better to do that? Tell me more about that. Well, I think what we try to ask our clients to do is to call us first. And I've seen, kind of like the farmer's commercial. Yep, seen that, done that, steak party or whatever it is that we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. Yeah, exactly. So the biggest one is whether you is in a parking lot. You back into a concrete pole, or you run into one of those pylons at an espresso stand, or you hit your own garage, whatever, that even though it seems like it's not an accident, with the insurance company, it is. So even if you're the only person involved, they're going to rate your policy that way.
Gotcha.
So if you can go get an estimate on that, and you, without making you not be able to afford groceries, go and pay the couple of grand to get your car fixed, you're going to be money ahead, because they will surcharge you for an accident, and your rate could go up for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Like $500, $800, $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
And when you would have money ahead. So we try to help you do that math so you can understand.
And do you have, based on maybe the value of a claim, or are you able to kind of calculate how that would impact their rate?
Well, it's really like looking into a crystal ball, because whether you file a claim for $1 or $1 million, it's the same number. So it's not exponentially different. The more money a claim costs the company, they don't charge you more.
Interesting.
So it's just a number. I
wouldn't have thought that was the case.
Yes. No, they can't do it that way. So if you get into an accident, it's basically called getting a violation point. So you get basically 2 points per accident or violation, regardless of how bad it was.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's going to be the same. They're going to, if you hadn't had any before, you would lose the accident-free or violation-free discount, and they would surcharge you for it.
Wow.
And there's no exact table that tells you $5,000 one accident, you're going to go up by $500. We just, based on experience, we can say it can be anywhere from $800 to $1,000 for one of those per year.
Added to your annual premium.
Yeah, for the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years.
Wow. Does it matter if you are at fault in an accident or not?
If you were at fault, you're going to see that charge if you're going to file the claim. If you were not at fault,
say it's an underinsured driver sort of thing.
So if you have uninsured motorists, which is an optional coverage, we definitely advise people to have in today's marketplace, because more and more people are choosing not to have coverage.
Yeah.
An uninsured motorist claim is not supposed to raise your rate.
Okay.
Not supposed to.
Okay. Elaborate on that.
So you just don't know, because right now the insurance companies are looking for ways to raise people's rates, and they say that they're not doing that. But if, let's say this next year, I want to go put you with another carrier. Let's say you're with Safeco and I want to put you to Progressive.
Gotcha.
You have a not at fault accident on your record. When I run the initial quotes and you're clean, nothing, then the rate's $1,500 a year. After I run the reports through the DMV and you have a not at fault accident, that rate will jump to $1,500.
I see.
On a new carrier. But your current carrier is not allowed to raise your rate on that.
I see. So as long as I don't switch carriers,
yes.
I shouldn't have any rate changes.
Correct.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's a game.
We're getting deep into the hacks.
Yes, deep into the weeds here. It's a game.
Yeah.
But that's why working with somebody you can have an honest conversation with is such a big deal.
Neutral third party,
Yeah. And again, you can spend a lot of time reading about insurance online, but it's like Abraham Lincoln said, everything you believe, you can believe everything you read online.
Yeah. Okay. Another question is, and I've got this from other people. Is it worth it to shop every year, or is there benefit to staying with the same company?
Well, I'll use the example of my dad was with, even though I've been doing this for 10 years, it took me about 7 before he finally became a client. And he had been with Allstate for 38 years.
Wow.
38 years. And I talk, my family and friends know what I do, but I also, if they want to ask me, they have the space to ask me, but I don't automatically push.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, come over. Because I want them to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And finally, he asked, hey, shop around for me. So I did, and it was going to be better to come over. And I gave him some more things on coverage. And he called up his company, and they said, okay, sounds good. He was more disappointed in the fact that they didn't try to keep his business. Yeah. They said, okay. And that was after 38 years of paying premiums to them and supposedly having a relationship with his local broker.
Wow.
And that's no different than some of the companies that we work with. They really don't, even though they say you have loyalty rewards or you've moved up a tier in their program, you get some nice little, tokens and tchotchkes, but it doesn't matter. There's numbers on paper. It's not like you can go and you can't negotiate with them on a rate. You can't really negotiate with them on their decision. We can, though, because we have the volume with them and we have the relationships that we can do that for you.
I see.
But the rate is the rate is the rate. because it's filed with the state insurance commissioner, and it's what's fair, and that's what makes sure everybody gets the same rate based on their individual
Their
insurance
risk profile,
score,
and
their risk profile.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so what we do and what I'd recommend to people is we reach out to everybody prior to their renewal to schedule an appointment and go over their coverage. Is it still the right fit for you year over year? People remodel, they buy new things, or their commute has changed, or they got married or had a baby, or there was a death in the family. And you don't always remember to call your insurance broker on those things.
Yeah.
And so is the coverage still right? Or even if nothing has changed, check in and we'll tell you, yeah, the rate still looks good. And we typically are going to run it all the time for you. And we know when it's out of bounds, right? This is kind of the market average. We know where you are. You look really good, or let's run it. This seems really high, or it's great. And so we'll do that for you. So it's not necessarily shopping the number every year, but at least having the conversation to know this is still the best fit for you and what's unique about your particular circumstance.
Does your credit score impact your insurance rates?
Right now, yes. So
Okay.
it had forever. And then there was, during COVID, the outgoing insurance commissioner chose to put in some legislation saying that they couldn't use credit.
Interesting.
And it basically reversed everybody's rate. So people were getting a fairly substantial discount for having good credit. And so during that period of COVID, their rates all shot up. And the people with not so good rates, actually, their not so good credit, their rates went down.
Interesting.
And then the insurance company, but the data was used for a purpose because
There's a statistical correlation, I'm
Yes,
guessing, between
there is.
credit score and,
with people,
and risk.
yeah, and I don't shoot the messenger, but the data says that the people typically were not as good with their money or credit, typically have to have or have more insurance history to go with some more accidents, more violations, or whatever.
Gotcha.
So they were charged more, and that's
I
what the data said.
Yeah.
Now I know there's situations with medical bills and bankruptcy and things that are out of control, right? And that's what he was trying to get at with introducing this legislation. That some people are in the situation by a major catastrophic event in their life and had to file bankruptcy, and they're not, and everything else in their life is great, and they shouldn't be penalized on their insurance because of it.
Yeah.
And that was what he was going at. But the insurance companies said it's not working, and the rate we're going to lose money basically. It's one of the things that led to that 30 to 40 billion loss. That was kind of at the front end of this.
Wow.
And so they took them to court, 18 months, and it got overturned. So then the companies re-rated again.
Okay.
And so now your credit does matter. And it's not a hard hit. It's not like you applied for a credit card or
Yes.
getting a mortgage. It's not a hard hit on your
But
credit.
it's something that's considered when they're
Yes.
assessing your risk.
Correct.
I
So
see.
that is back in play now.
Okay. Interesting. And so when did that restart?
It was just at the end of COVID. So 22.
22, okay.
Yeah, was when it finally came back. And it took a whole year of renewals, 23, for people to finally see it. But because rates have been increasing the last 2 years,
Yeah.
it just kind of got lost with everything else because rates have been
The general increases seem to have kind of outpaced whatever savings.
you had before.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, maybe I'm not going to pay my credit card anymore. It's not worth it. So,
Well, you're going to pay way more in interest and penalties that way if you choose not to pay the credit card.
that's fair. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
maybe I'll stick with that then.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. What are some of the things that kind of, questions maybe that you hear people asking a lot that come up in the course of your interactions with people about insurance that maybe just be helpful for people to know or be aware of?
I think the biggest one is on the auto side, file the claim with the at-fault party's insurance. I mean, in most people's lives, they get into one or two accidents their entire life. They're out of routine. Something happens. They're in an intersection. They get run into. They back into somebody. There's a little bit of panic. Like, what do I do? What happens? Am I physically okay? And there's a need. You feel like there's a need to call the police, even though it's minor. Newsflash: they don't want to come out right now. They're too overwhelmed. They're too busy for a minor fender bender.
Yeah.
Like they'll just
If
say
nobody's
no.
hurt, then
Yeah, they just say go about your business.
Yeah.
But your first reaction is to always call your insurance, even though you weren't at fault. But
I
when you do that, they will, again, like we said, they will automatically start processing the claim, even though you weren't at fault. You would be subject to your deductibles. If you didn't have rental car on your policy, you'd have to pay a rental car out of pocket. You're going to pay for all your medical up front, even though it wasn't your fault. And so when somebody calls me and they walk through an accident, we always recommend, if it's not your fault, file the claim with the at-fault party's insurance.
Yeah.
So if you hit me, you're at fault. I'm going to call your company. Let's say it's Progressive. I'm going to file the claim. They're going to give me a rental car. They're going to pay 100% of the damage to my vehicle. And that way I'm not out any money in the process.
I see. Now, I was always kind of told, and maybe this isn't right, so if it is, correct me. I was always told to always call the police because essentially my understanding was basically that they would help adjudicate fault and could kind of, determine that. And so when you go to insurance, then, officer so-and-so says, this or that sort of thing. So you're saying don't bother with that at all. How do you figure that out otherwise?
It's hard because if it's clear who's at fault.
A fender bender, if it's they rear-ended you, then they're at fault.
Correct.
Almost always, right?
Yeah. In Washington State, if they rear-end you, they're at fault, no matter what happened.
Yeah.
They were following too close. You had to jam on your brakes because a dog ran out and they hit you. That's their fault.
Yeah.
So that's the only clear-cut way to do it. But you're right. I have seen situations where somebody gets into an accident. They haven't called the police, but one person accepted fault, which they not our client. The other person, our client, said, "Okay, great," and then they call the insurance company and say, "Oh no, the person changed their tune."
Yeah.
And then now the insurance companies have to get to the story, try to figure it out, and that's where it can be an issue. So in those situations, you're going to wish you had called the police. But what my point was earlier, saying you can call them, but most of the time you're going to be waiting hours and hours and hours, or they're going to tell you that they're not coming out.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have the resources to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So if you can get witness statement from somebody that's around, if there's anybody else around,
okay,
or whatever you can get on record to say that when they admit right there they're at fault, that's best. But the insurance companies have enough data and resources to know that if your car's hit at a certain angle on a certain spot, who really was at fault.
Interesting.
Like they just know. Like there's no way you got hit here if you were going first and this person was supposed to merge. They just know who's at fault. And then the two insurance companies figured out what's called subrogation.
There you go.
Who really was at fault.
So they have actually like satellite cameras on every street, and they
pretty much. Yeah. What's funny though is right now on homes. So the next one is home claims, but it used to be that the agent would have to go out to every home that they wrote and do a visual inspection of it. And that doesn't happen anymore. And so they're sending out third-party inspectors for every new home insurance to do a visual inspection of the house to verify what the risk is, that home is, that it's a 2-story house, that it's 2,000 square feet, that it has a decent roof, and there are no rabid dogs around, and the stairs are upright. Huh. But now, even better is, every time a FedEx or UPS flight is in the air, those planes are taking digital high-res photography, and they sell it to the insurance company. And that's what they're using to do these inspections. And so I could go to Travelers right now and I could put in your address and it would have probably 20 pictures of the roof, and I can choose the date, the month, and the year, and it shows the progression.
It's crazy.
And so eventually if they see a bunch of moss on the roof by looking at that, so AI probably looks at it, scans it, and then they throw it out and say, this one's going to non-renew because there's moss on the roof.
Jeez. So would they actually non-renew for that?
Yes.
If there's moss, you're done.
If according to the picture, if it looks like a huge moss buildup, you'll get a note a year in advance, 6 months in advance, saying we're going to non-renew you because you got to clean this up. Got to clean this up. Yeah. And so then you have enough notice to go ahead and do that.
Wow. There you go.
So technology is ever changing.
High tech industry.
Yes.
I wouldn't have even known.
Tesla. I mean, it's just the same with Tesla. I mean, Tesla is really a data company, right?
Yeah.
All the data
tracking the roads.
Yep. And they sell all that.
Yeah.
So that's what these planes are doing.
That is wild. Okay. Awesome. Well, anything else you want to throw out there or share or kind of talk about insurance wise?
I say just call, because the biggest thing is same thing on homeowners claims. Someone broke into my car and stole $1,000 worth of stuff. That's unfortunate, but don't file it.
Okay.
Because your deductible may only be $500 to $1,000. You're not going to get any coverage anyway. Yeah. And in this market, you only get 2 claims on your home in a 5-year period, and then you can't find coverage. Yeah. So it's got to be a 5-figure loss. Okay. Like water everywhere. Yeah. Tree in my living room. House burned to the ground. Wow. But call your agent.
Okay.
Just call your agent first.
That makes sense. So, well, speaking of that, then you said call. What's the best way to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, here at the main office, phone number 425-881-2400. Come on by. We always have cold brew and hot coffee here downtown or online, ProStarInsurance.com.
Awesome.
So you can find us there.
Yeah, I got some, Jeff gave me some cold brew
last
week.
Yes.
Gave me one of those Boaz coffee.
Yep. Also local guy.
Company. Yeah. No, so very cool.
Yeah,
It was tasty.
He comes in minimum twice a month with our batch.
So you are always well stocked on coffee for anybody that needs some.
Yeah, I mean, Google and Microsoft, they may have buffets and everything. We just have cold brew. It used to be Monster back in the day, like energy drinks or NOS, but now we're a little older, so it's got to be cold brew.
Well, health conscious too. Those energy drinks are not good for you.
No,
so
not in any way.
Pretty horrible.
And they aren't local.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anthony. I really appreciate you taking the time again. It was great to chat with you about all things insurance and a little bit about some Bothell spots as well. It's super fun. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So
thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Well, and thank you so much for watching today. This is the Bothell Neighbors in Business podcast, and we'll see you next time.